You have found the portal into the Laughing Stoic Buddha universe. LSB Podcast with Nick Bibeau.
You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think.
Acquire and arrive at is based on having never left. Yeah, just chilled out because.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this podcast has come from humble beginnings. Just my iPhone and some buddies doing some recordings. We've come a long way. Today, we have Tim Ferriss on the podcast. Tim, welcome.
Happy to be here, guys. For anybody listening, I'm not Tim Ferriss. I have a passing resemblance.
Dude, you're actually, I'm just noticing now, even your voice is somewhat there. It's not quite the same, but even just your voice sounds
It actually is too. Yeah, that's why I grew a mustache, is because I just
to
I needed
distinguish yourself.
something.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So it's not Tim. So gotcha hooked. It's Brett. Eric, thank you for joining us today, man. I've been looking forward to this podcast for this day for a while. As I was mentioning a little bit before we hit record, I love the hell out of your page. I've only been on X for about 3 months, and very early on, I realized there's a lot of garbage, a lot of mental viruses all over X scrolling, and I found a little sanctuary that was your page and your posts, and I made sure to put in notifications every single time that something pops up. It's like a little soul cleanse for me. It's like a reset in the jungle that Twitter can be, of like putting me back on my purpose, why I'm here, what I'm doing, what kind of content I want to create. So I love your stuff, and I'm very honored that you decided to come on the podcast today.
Hey, much appreciation, man. I'm glad it resonated. Yeah. When I set out, that was originally I was an anonymous account just called Garden of Words. And that was the goal, was to create a garden of words, right? So that the garden is a thing that you manage, but you don't really control, and it's growing. And you can't make a plant grow by pulling on the leaves. You plant seeds and you protect it, right? And that's essentially what I tried to do, is just to share things that are meaningful to me and things that I feel like are cleansing. Yeah, clean, pure, beautiful, things that bring out the best in people. That's the goal. That's
awesome, man. That's a beautiful metaphor. I never knew the backstory behind the handle, but yeah, garden of words. Yeah, and like you said, managing a garden's can be a spiritual practice, because it is so much out of your hands. It's weather, it's the soil, it's all these things. So what you can do is plant seeds, and you can cultivate, you can manage, the growth of these plants. So I love that as a metaphor. And that's sort of been your mindset from the beginning of the page. Yeah, it's like, let me take things that feel meaningful, beautiful, that are worth sharing with the world, sort of post it, and then kind of it's out of your hands at that point. Is that sort of the mindset?
Yeah. Yep. I think along with that too is that not forcing anything. There's an aspect of being online that, contrarian thinking, in your face, calling people out, pushing people. These strategies work, and they're kind of short term, to be honest. And as a parent, a lot of those don't work long term. They work for a day or maybe a short period, but long term, business is about longevity, and business is about reciprocal respect, mutual admiration, fostering the best of each other. And ultimately what it comes down to, one of my early mentors was talking to me about, you need a little contrarian. You need something, you need to, spice it up, add some little, make people feel something. And I was like, I don't know if I ever will push in that direction. If I feel called to, I will. But from where I am right now, my goal is to, create more of inviting, not so much like, if you don't read this, your year is screwed. I'm like, it's probably not, to be honest. It's probably going to be the same, but okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really do, bro. So much, that gives me so much reassurance actually to hear that, because I don't like the contrarian thing at all. And I don't like to like threaten my audience. And that's a lot of the advice you get from people early on
Yeah.
is like, you got to have instill that fear of missing out. And like, that if they don't follow you now, they're going to miss the train and they're going to regret it. Like, it just doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
I never heard that before. You're making me think. The analogy of being a parent. I have two daughters. You have kids?
Yeah.
Okay. How many?
I got 3 kids, and then I got 1 on the way.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks,
Right
man.
on.
Yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
it's
All right.
exciting.
Yeah, it's a big family. That's so cool. Yeah. So I have two daughters, 9 and 6. They're the biggest part of my world. They're my everything. My biggest job, being a dad, but just love the hell out of them. And I write about them a lot too, even on my page. And I love that idea of almost like being a parent to your following, like having that approach of, or for your business, personal brand, business, whatever it is, being like, we're in this for the long haul, you guys. Like, I don't want to squeeze some quick money out of you. I don't want to like hack your dopamine system or your fear response and stuff to like get a couple of bucks out of you. We're building a family. Like, it almost sounds cliche, but we're building a family together. This needs to be a long-term thing. So it gives me a lot of reassurance to hear that that's your approach, to see you being so successful at it, because that's really the only sustainable route for me too, I think, long-term.
Yeah. I think there's enough insecure attachment in the world.
Yeah, we don't need it on Twitter.
Honestly, yeah. And the thing is about social media, done well, it's relationship building at scale. So it is like a family. It's like a group of friends that are collaborating towards something. And the beautiful thing about social media, it took me a while to really embrace this and embody this, but it gives you the opportunity to self-select the people who stand to benefit the most from you bringing the best of you forward. That's
Love
it.
that. I love
That's
that
it.
so much. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
there's a real wonderful thing where you can follow and unfollow.
Yeah.
You're not locked in.
What a
Right?
relief. Yeah.
God, yeah.
Yeah.
Brett, I don't like your stuff. That's great. There's a button
man.
right at the top. You just click it. You don't have to see it anymore. Congratulations.
Do me and you a favor. Just don't follow. And yeah. And that's so cool, man. That I wanted to write that down. That you stand at scale to build a following of people that benefit from you just being yourself, relating your message, delivering the best that you can. Like that's a great attitude to have moving forward. It's not a scarce mindset at all. Like you said, it's not an insecure attachment mindset. It's like, it's a win-win moving forward, mutually beneficial. I love the hell out of that, man.
Yeah. And I also, as far as what I've written about, I haven't gone too deep into specifics of what I do for business or what kind of like as far as technical skills. And that's one area just in self-reflection, an area that I'm looking to for 2024 to incorporate, which is a little bit more hands-on, a little bit more like, okay, let me show you exactly what I did to grow the business, to grow my other business endeavors, to build myself up as a professional, because I do think that that's valuable. But yeah, I think constantly qualifying everybody all the time is exhausting. And I think we know this enough too. One of my backgrounds is in medical innovations. So I have a few medical packaging patents. So I've built businesses around those. I work with a team that takes inventors from like day one all the way to manufacturing, to intellectual property, all the way to connecting you with markets, to consumer, the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things you realize is when you create this environment of hyper qualification, everybody feels imposter syndrome, and it benefits no one. Because what you do is you shut down creativity, right? You can't be qualifying and be creative at the same time.
That's great. Yeah.
You can't. Yeah.
Yes.
So you're like, okay, you're allowed to share your idea, but you're not allowed to share your idea because you only have blank. And I just think that some of the best ideas come from inventors that have no experience inventing, no industry experience, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a level there of, I do think standards are important. and understanding the dynamics are important. But just the idea that by outperforming someone on some metric that you just happen to choose as the metric for
Yeah.
whatever reason, right?
Because it benefits you and your message, yeah, and your story.
I said that to somebody today. I was like, I have yet to see somebody propose a hierarchy of enlightenment and put themselves at the bottom. I have never ever seen that. Always.
It's so good, bro.
Here's the hierarchy. Oh my gosh, guess
I'm on
where I
top.
landed?
Who would have thought?
Isn't that crazy how I happen to be at the top of my own proposed hierarchy? Yeah, anyways.
Dude, that's a great insight. That you don't even know how on brand you are right now for the podcast. That we've talked about this a lot. Do you know Ken Wilber by any chance? Does that name ring a bell? Okay.
Oh yeah.
He's the prime example of that, man, because he has his levels, right? And I should start with this. I love Ken Wilber's work. He's been a very important figure and philosopher for sure for us, moving ideas forward and all that. But the one complaint I have about him, and I talk with a lot of other spiritual leaning people, is that he has these levels, right, of spiral dynamics. He taps into that stuff, and no matter what system he has, he can go to any guru, any philosopher, and he can go, you have a great contribution to philosophy, to spirituality, to navigating the inner world and the inner realms. But it's on like level 8 of my system. And guess what? I'm on level 10. Like, who would have thought? Because you got all that. I got all that because I can like see it and qualify it. And on top of it, I have this, and that. And it's all arbitrary. He gets to choose what the hierarchy is. And it's just funny. I love what you said so much. And I think Ken Wilber is maybe the prime example of that,
Yeah.
But
yep.
Yeah.
No, I think that's all too true. And we do that in ways subconsciously. We don't even realize that we do it. You know what I mean? Anytime basically that that we look at someone and we think, man, I'm so different and so much better than them. Anytime that's happening in your heart, you really should have something in you should be saying, what's the measure? Right? Because an example that I have is I love tobacco, right? So I enjoy cigars and pipes and the occasional cigarette, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I see someone smoking a cigarette, I'm like, oh, disgusting, right?
Yeah, man, I know.
And I have to check myself.
We're all full of shit, man. Yep, I know.
Yeah, I mean, I look at myself and I think like, what? Because you're so much. Is it somehow so different that you're so unique and so special on some arbitrary scale that you just get to point out all the flaws of others with zero introspection? Like, honestly, get real. You know what I mean?
Man. Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're talking about what might be the most important meta skill of being a human being, which is self-awareness, right? Like being self-reflection, being able to smell out your own bullshit, And do you know? I'm going to throw another name out there. Any chance you know John Vervaeke? He's a neurocognitive scientist. Really cool dude. I'll send you some of his stuff. I really get the feeling you'll vibe with him. Cool. He has many, many ideas about all sorts of things, but one of his ideas that really resonates with me is that we can't lie to ourselves. And he gives these examples of like, once you know that 2 + 2 is 4, you can't unknow it, right? And then there's other levels to this on we'll say like the spiritual enlightenment realm. Once you have the realization of no self, you can't really ever unsee it. Right. And there's certain once you see the matrix, you can't unsee the matrix, whatever. Right. Different analogies once you've taken the red pill. And, there's different ideas of what the red pill is. But
I get the point, though.
Yeah. Okay. So, basically, you can't lie to yourself. But he says you can bullshit yourself. And bullshitting yourself is when you know the right thing to do, but you make this argument. My buddy and I call it the court case. Right. So let's say you're dieting. Right. And you're on keto and somebody brings along donuts and, you've been on keto for 2 weeks and you start hearing the court case going in your brain. it's bullshitting you into saying, dude, you deserve a donut, man. Come on, man. You worked a long week. You've been
Yeah.
good, this, and that. Right.
It's
And
only so many grams of, or how many carbs,
yeah,
right? And
exactly. I could,
technically you can stay within keto if you, oh
oh,
yeah,
you've heard the court case. Okay. Yeah. You know
oh
what I'm
yeah.
talking about
Oh,
here.
that's so good. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
good.
yeah. So there's always a court case. There's always a bullshitting going on inside of our brains. And your example of being someone that enjoys tobacco and then judging somebody else as cigarettes is like the perfect case. But the
Right.
coolest thing ever, the reason I know that that you're my homie and that like we're on the same wavelength is because you can admit it, you know.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than coming across a person who can't, like a person who's sitting there judging somebody else for smoking when they smoked a cigar last night and they're not self-aware enough to even catch it. And you're just sitting there like, man, you know, you're so lost. You don't even know how lost you are. And you know, we're all on our own journeys or whatever. And I exactly like what you just did. Every single day I go, how am I bullshitting myself? What arguments am I making inside of my own brain that I know deep down in my soul aren't ultimately what's best for me, right?
Yeah.
Now, I would be interested to hear what kind of tools you use. Personally, I would say, like off the top of my head, meditation, journaling. Um, it's a little heavy-handed, but like psychedelic mushrooms, you know, once a month or whatever. Those are some of the ways I like to catch the ways in which I'm bullshitting myself and get down to the true core. Do you have any practices, you know, big or small, that you do regularly to increase that self-awareness?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Practices are, they're critical. I am careful with my practices because I know that even the most noble thing can become an addiction. It's
Of
really
course.
fantastic. Fantastic meaning amazing
Mhm.
how it can happen. It's like the same thing happens where you embrace fitness and then all of a sudden you're walking around looking at everyone else, and that's where it changed, right? So then
Yeah.
fitness has become your new idol, and then you
Mm.
have to check that, and it's constantly the renewal and the refreshing of the heart in it. I was going to say real quick before I talk about tools, in the Old Testament of the Bible, when people went into the Holy of Holies, they unless very stringent practices were held together, it's written that they would perish,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
So when people see truth, there's a piece of you that can no longer go back, which is a kind of death, right?
Mm.
Do you get what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, 100%, man.
And I feel like that's true. One of the things I've been wrestling with myself is the role of epiphany, meaning when you see something and you have that aha and you feel it inside, and I can't go back on the other side of that door, right?
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what the dynamics of that are, but I know that fundamentally, I think most of the deepest, most important decisions we've made actually stem from those kind of experiences. And I think that being too above the shoulders and too cognizant or
Yeah.
too logical is actually immature.
Yeah.
Strategically immature is the word, because immature means it needs to mature, right? It needs to be
Yeah.
integrated. Tools wise, my favorite tools that I use every day: sauna,
Mm.
cold plunge. Those are
Mm.
my like non-negotiables, right?
Yes.
Um, and so on any given day, I I built a wood-fired sauna in my backyard.
What a
It's
beast.
rough. It's rough,
I
but
bet.
it's
I bet.
good. Well, because
Yeah.
I said I like to smoke cigars. I smoke cigars in the sauna too. I like
Uh-huh.
it. You know what I mean? Anyways, but
Dude,
so I
you're
got
such
my
a beast,
sauna.
bro. I'm just picturing you in your own homemade wood fire sauna smoking a cigar. Like
Yeah.
that's a badass image right there, bro.
Oh, that's the temple, dude. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Shit goes down in there.
it does. My favorite music to play in there is just a plain didgeridoo. Just a
Dude,
didge, dude. I know. If you came out, oh, it'd be so fun, man. It'd be fun.
bro,
But
dude, let's do it. First off, I just got to take a moment to recognize you are perfect for this podcast, bro. I mean, that image right there of you in a fire sauna, listening to a didgeridoo, smoking a cigar. That's LSB. Like that's gonna be our new
the new
uh,
icon.
icon right there, bro. Okay.
Yep.
I'm
So the
sorry.
sauna.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good, man. The
Okay.
sauna and then the cold plunge. I just have a stock tank, just a big 100-gallon stock tank. I just dunk. So those are my go-tos that I found are the best for regulating me, regardless of the day. Really, those are the ones that I are non-negotiable. The other one that that I also include is scripture, right? So
Mhm.
my family and I are Christian, right?
Mhm.
And so essentially what we wrap our understanding of the world around is the idea, the figure of the Christ,
Yeah.
right? And so along with that comes this wonderful gift of the Bible that I can just go to. And there's these deep stories that I can relate to. There's practices, there's examples of people overcoming obstacles that really make my obstacles look like little kids' toys, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like
Beautiful.
war and death and sickness and loss and joy and royalty and heroes and villains. And there's something so deep in me that just a deep piece of me nods, right? In
Yeah.
agreement with this is true, and this is true, meaning
Yeah.
it's the
Overarching.
overarching.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so on a daily basis, um, I try to read at least 5 minutes a day, just spending it in time in the scripture. And even if it's just a little bit, um, I've found that uh, the best the best practices are the ones that orient me back into right now, right?
Yes.
My story, right?
Presenting. Yes.
Presenting. I'm right
Yes.
here, right? In
Mhm.
the sauna, you got nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
That's the best part about it. The cold, where are you going to go? You're in
Yes.
it, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't, you're not daydreaming while you're in a cold tank.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
happen. You're
Yeah.
in your body, right?
Yeah. You have to be.
Um, and so I found that yeah, that the process of reading and even reading out loud in my office, just reading, right?
Mhm.
That is another orienting principle. But really, other than that, I mean, the tools that I employ on a weekly basis are fasting. Fasting is one of my
Nice.
favorites.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah, man. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
fast too. I think it's essential. And I don't schedule it. I'll like just know. I'll wake up that morning and I'm like, hey Nick, it's time to fast.
That's
And
good.
yeah, it's like it's a total reset for everything. And the Stoic side of things, I've written a few newsletters about this. It's so cool to decide you're gonna fast for 2 o'clock to come around and for you to be hungry and for you to just be like, it's okay to be hungry. Like we're gonna get through this. You're gonna get to the other side of it because
Love it.
your body needs a reset. Your body needs to cleanse. And so I'm really happy to hear that you do that. I have so many thoughts about what you just said.
Mhm.
First off, you said something beautiful about the scripture being the what you wrap. I don't remember exactly how you said it, what you use to wrap around meaning and purpose and why you're here. I think it was the road manager for AC/DC, the rock band, that I that this quote comes from, which is really funny. He said that God is invisible. No, yeah, God is invisible, and religion is the sheet we put over it to give it shape.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know if I perfectly got that quote, but that came
Mhm.
to mind as you were explaining of like, you know, God is ineffable, whatever you want to, spirit, the universe, it's obviously ineffable. And to some people, a sort of more immature take on that is, well, then that means it's all bullshit. I'm going to just believe in science. And they don't realize that science is the sheet that they're putting over the mystery.
That's
Right.
right.
Exactly. So to consciously choose, like, for me it's scripture, for me it's Christianity, and to have it as a daily practice of giving shape to that mystery. And I could feel in your answer, like, this is not, as you mentioned, it's not a head thing. This is these stories and these analogies strike deep into your heart, into your soul, and present to you, as you said, brings you into this moment in this
Yeah.
clean, clear way where all the stresses, the business, the relationship stuff can kind of fall away for a moment. Not that they're gone forever. You have to pick them back up, but just find a moment of peace, and to have some sort of a practice through reading scripture, meditation, whatever it is that can give you that, I think is like essential. There's no other way to get through life for sure.
Yeah. That's
Um,
good.
yeah. And then the other thing I was going to say, it's so funny. I agree so much. Like you said, a lot of people are very cerebral, very much up here in their heads. And most people would benefit so much by getting into their bodies, right? Getting into their hearts. And when I was talking about what the things that I do to counteract my bullshitting myself to raise self-awareness, I mentioned cerebral, well, meditation, it's arguable, but I said a meditation, journaling, and you mentioned two very embodied things, which is sauna and cold plunging. And I just wanted to appreciate that there's a lot of wisdom in that. You can't fix nervous system problems with your head. You can't fix thinking problems with more thinking. I think it's so good to go back to your physiology. What is it that the body needs to chill out? And then the brain can kind of follow it. So like along those lines, something that if I need to get present, I'll go and lift weights. And I lift like really heavy weights because it's the same thing. If you're daydreaming when you're going to deadlift, 350 pounds, for me, I'm a small guy, but that's a lot for me, right?
No, it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to not do it. I'm going to embarrass myself in front of the whole gym. Like I got to be there 100% locked in to get that weight up. And so that's a physiological thing that I like to do is go lift really heavy weights because like the cold plunge, like the sauna, you can't daydream. You got to be there 100% in that moment that you're picking up the weight. And I just love that. And I don't cold plunge, but I do a cold shower every morning, and it's the least favorite part of my day. And then the like 5 minutes afterwards is the best part of the day because you're just like, yes, I did it again. Thank God. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really cool. I know the cold plunge is totally next level. So I commend you for that, man. That's really cool.
Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah.
There's no question. It's many of these things, many of the practices that are the most helpful in my eyes are the ones that help put resistance back where it belongs. Because
God, dude, you're full of them, man. That's so good. Put resistance back where it belongs.
Yeah, you get what I mean.
Yeah,
because it's not bad to have resistance.
It's not resistance for resistance sake, though. This is intentional resistance. Yes,
that's right.
That.
That's right. So, for example, we have these indoor lives, AC, heat, sweaters, comfortable. Read something I don't like, I can just leave. Like everything is extremely comfortable, and because of it, we're kept in this elevated state of if everything isn't progressively more and more comfortable for us, we're basically like we don't know how to handle it. You know what I mean? But
of course.
But the thing about life and nature is, and business, and children, and marriage, all of it is it introduces so much movement. I don't know if movement's the right word. So much pressure, not
change.
Movement. Tension.
I like tension.
You know it introduces something to push against, right?
Yes.
And if you're in that, I would say, insecure attachment with your own life, then you have this yo-yoing of I'm not good enough, and so then you overcompensate, and then you get to a point where you're like, wow, I'm the best, and then you overcompensate again, and it's like this. In order to keep it where it needs to be, where resistance is a welcome, is a okay, I'm in that right now, I'm in this right now, right? I feel it right now, I'm hungry right now, I'm too hot right now, my children are frustrating right now, that client interaction didn't go to my liking right now. It's all the same process, right? Because the reality is it's not necessarily figuring it out that's bothersome.
Yeah.
It's the fact that your heart rate is raised and your gut feels like it's a bonfire and you're like worried, and that's what's making it so hard. Because really it's like once you can learn to calm that, you learn, well, that's probably most of my problem, because figuring out client stuff, you just figure it out.
Yeah.
Figuring out relational stuff, you just stay calm and figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is right out of my own heart, dude. So it's in the name of the podcast, Laughing Stoic Buddha. Stoicism's huge in my life. And I don't know how familiar you are with Stoicism, but like, I think Ryan Holiday, are you familiar with that writer?
Yeah,
he writes,
for sure.
Okay. He's a huge hero in my life. He always breaks down Stoicism to one Epictetus quote, which is, we don't control what happens, we control how we respond. Right. And that's like Stoicism 101 is you can influence things in your life, things that are external, other people's opinions of you, business success, but all sorts, where you live, you can influence all these things, but you can't fully control them. But the idea in Stoicism is the one thing you can control is inside, your response and the meaning that you make out of what you encounter in life, right?
That's good.
So yeah, and what you were just sharing is it's a daily mantra for me is when things go bad. So Ryan Holiday wrote a book called The Obstacle is the Way. And I literally say that to myself every time I come up against an obstacle. Like it's not even a thought. It's so ingrained in me. I have something that I'm doing at work and something goes terribly wrong. I go, cool. The obstacle is the way. Like this is a problem that I can solve, that I can overcome. I have an idea of how I want my daughters to act, on a certain day, and they're being cranky, and their tummy hurts and whatever. And right away I go, okay, well, you want it to be this way. You want the comfortable AC, food brought to you, all the the comforts of life and stuff. But it's not that. Now you're out in the middle of nowhere. She's got a tummy ache. She's got to go to the bathroom, and like, cool. The obstacle is the way. Like, we're going to get through this. And I think like that one mindset shift of it's not about everything going the way you want it to. Like, you would be such a soft, pathetic thing if everything always went the way you wanted to. It's about responding in the calmest, most stoic, most, loving way when it comes to relationships and stuff like that possible. And I loved your metaphor too. I've literally said this before is when so I work in kind of a stressful job in high voltage electrical utilities. So like when shit hits the fan, it hits the fan, and it's like it sort of separates the boys from the men, And I work with some women too, the women from the girls, based on how calmly you can respond to a crisis situation. And so I've literally like made it a goal of mine is when shit goes bad, not necessarily how quickly I solve the problem or manage the situation. That's great. That's important. But the primary thing is how calm I stay through the whole situation. Like, that's the win. The win is exactly like you said, my nervous system stayed chill enough. My heart rate didn't overraise. It's going to a little bit, like I'm not, not a robot, but I didn't allow myself to freak out because this thing happened. And the outcome is important, but it's secondary. Primary is how did I respond and how did I show up for this important situation, and that translates to so many other situations in my life. You have an idea of an outcome, a win that you want, and that's sort of like the external scorecard. Ryan Holiday talks about this a lot too, but the inner scorecard is always how you show up and how you respond to things and like how present you are for the entire situation. So I just wanted to piggyback on everything that you just said, that it's like, awesome, dude. That's the best mindset to go through in life, because the alternative is I'm only going to be happy when external things work out. It's like, and that's a hard game to win, man. It's impossible really to win long term. But if you instead point it towards yourself of no matter how things work out, how am I going to respond to it? Like we said with business, okay, you didn't get the client. Cool. You're going to get the next one, right? you didn't deliver for them. Okay. Like it does no good for me to dwell on how sorry I feel for myself and that I'm never going to figure it out. Like I know if I keep going, I am going to figure it out. Right. And so just like having that mindset, I think is a game changer. It's essential.
Yeah. Oh, dude. So much what you said is so good. It reminds me of, I worked with one time a guy I believe he was a fire chief and an aviation fire chief. So there's the fire, there's the helicopters, there's the big planes, and then above those is this big, I can't remember what the plane is called, but it's this big airplane that just circles the whole thing.
Yeah.
And his job basically is he sat like this, looking out the window, watching the entire thing unfold, fighting these massive forest fires. And he had hundreds of people under his command, right?
Yeah.
And he's just watching. And I asked him about that, about his psychology with it, because I was really interested. I was like, how do you do that? Because it's a forest fire. It's a forest fire. Have you ever seen one?
It's insane. Yeah.
It's chaos embodied. It's a literal dragon, right?
Yeah, it is.
And he said, I decided something for myself. He said, I decided the crazier it gets, the slower time moves for me, and the calmer I get.
That's
I was
stoic as
like,
fuck. Yes.
whoa. And he did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. But I think even more fundamentally, like going back a little bit, what we were talking about is life is very anti-fragile.
Mm,
The system
of
of
course.
life,
Yes.
and I don't mean life like the big thing. I mean
Biology,
biology.
survival. Yes.
Yes,
Evolution.
it's so anti-fragile,
Hmm.
meaning it accounts for chaos, it accounts for change, it accounts for adaptation or adaptation and benefit, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So actually, being fragile is in many ways dishonest.
Mm.
If we look at it that way, that the
Love that.
truth of biology is that you are fundamentally an anti-fragile system
Yeah.
that if you embody it in a way that doesn't align with what life is doing, right? With life and its reality, um, then what you get is you get maladaptive behavioral responses, which are actually not fully the honesty isn't the right word, but do you get what I mean by that? It's like
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
in
No, it's
alignment.
it's a
Yeah,
way that we bullshit ourselves again, getting back to bullshit. We bullshit
that's right.
ourselves by believing that we're fragile. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really just a way of being a victim or a way of copping out. Like if we're really true to our nature is anti-fragile, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's just a choice. It's just a mindset shift because your body, your physiology, everything is made up to be anti-fragile. So
Yeah.
the idea that, and I think this would be a perfect lead into talking about running marathons and
Oh yeah.
doing your Ironman. I think for sure because I think in that post you wrote that your coach said, no matter how prepared you are physically for the Ironman, it's going to be 30% mental. And like for people to wrap their brains around that, like you could run all day, every day, like your body can totally be ready for it, right?
Yeah.
But there's gonna have to be some sort of an attitude, mental. It's going to be a huge piece of it for sure. And I think that's getting to the point that you're talking about. That like it's more honest to tell ourselves we're anti-fragile. It's in our nature
Mm-hmm.
to overcome obstacles, to grow because of resistance, to get tougher, you
Yeah.
know, both physically and emotionally, mentally, and everything else on top of that. So with that
Yeah.
as with that as a lead in, let's talk a little bit about your let's just go straight to the Ironman. What was it like preparing for and running your or participating in your Ironman event?
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of spur of the moment, to be honest.
I
So
love that.
I've done some long distance races before, some marathons. My favorite are the ones where I run with someone who's never ran it before because it's such a paradigm shift. Because so many people, I could never. And you're like, really? Like, I don't know, man. Let's
I
think
love
about that. Let's talk about that. Um, and so last year I decided that I wanted to do a half Ironman, and I did that. And it took some training. It was pretty tough. It was challenging. The main challenge for me was the biking. I haven't spent a lot of time cycling, and time is a big one with cycling because the posture, you're hunched over, it's hard on your legs, it's hard on your pelvic floor. Like it's just,
Mhm.
it takes a very specialized muscle and posture to be good at cycling. And so, but it wasn't that hard. I would say it challenged me, but I didn't feel like I was redlining by any
Mhm.
means, right?
Mhm.
So then I decided I wanted to do a full. It was earlier this year. It was, I think, in January I signed up, and the full Ironman was in June. And as I was preparing, now this is a busy time for me, right? Meaning this is when I transitioned out of my full-time career as an occupational therapist. I moved into full-time content creation. Our family's growing. We're remodeling our home, treehouse and sauna and chicken
Not
coop.
the
And
ideal time to train for an Ironman.
well, this is the thing. This is the thing. And I kind of had this running dialogue in the back of my mind that was like, you're probably going to pay for this. Right. Well,
Yeah.
lo and behold, I trained, right? I did train, and I trained a couple times a week, but really you should be putting at least 4 or 5 times a week, like
Mhm.
sincere training.
Yeah.
Because it's not just your cardiovascular fitness, it's metabolic because you're having to eat.
Yeah.
It's like 12 plus hours, depending on how long it takes you. Some people are much faster than that, but they're in the shape that it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Meaning for most people, it's that you're eating and you have to go to the bathroom and you're sweating, and are you getting enough hydration, and are your muscles fatigued to the point where they can't go on anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's as much metabolic as it is cardiovascular, right?
Of course, yeah.
And so the day of the race, I was feeling extremely pumped because I was like, it's finally here. It's a beautiful day. And the race went really well, but it was about halfway through the cycling because I bicycled. I mean, I wasn't fast. I was cycling for hours,
Mm.
hours. And I'm just like, I'm still going. And it was at the halfway point of the cycling where I was like, I'm only halfway. And I'm not even halfway done with the whole race.
Yes, you got a marathon to run.
I have a marathon after this. Yeah. And that's the point where that's why I actually recommend when people talk to me about, do you recommend they do it? I said, I don't know if it's an Ironman, but I recommend that you do something that is legitimately,
Hard.
yeah, like on the edge of, I don't know if I can actually do it. Because the half, I was pretty confident. You know, I did a half Ironman the weekend before I did the
Oh my God.
race.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, because it's not that long. You know, it's like
Mm-hmm.
6 hours, 7 hours, right?
Uh-huh.
But it was this race that I actually felt like I actually confronted. There was a point where after I got off the bike, I did get through the bike. I had to take a few breaks. I got through the bike and I instantly started cramping, right? My quads start cramping and I sit down. And I just started asking myself, you know, when you're in that mental space, you're sitting finally. I was like, why am I doing this? And it wasn't like, you're doing it for this. It was like, no, why? Did you do it because you thought you would be cool? Do you feel cool?
Very humbling. Yeah.
Did you do it because you thought you would prove something? How do you feel right now? Right?
Yes.
It's the authoritative, stern voice being like, you wanted a test.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the question, it was one of the few things that actually pushed me to really feeling this level, which was, am I really brave or am I just really stupid? Like,
good question, bro.
you know what I mean? Because it
Yeah,
wasn't,
dude.
it was like, it was so, my legs were cramping, my calves were cramping. I didn't feel like eating, but I knew I needed salt. I did not feel like drinking. I needed water. I just felt like kind of shaky and cold. It was awful.
Yeah.
But it got me to the point where I actually was thinking like, why are you doing this? Because you don't have to. Nobody's making you do this.
Yeah.
You're out here on your own. You're not running with anybody. There's nobody here even knows who you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the question that I had to come to, the answer was, well, Brett, you said you were going to do it, which is honestly not that great of an answer. So it showed me, it wasn't like, let's put it this way, it wasn't an answer that made me feel like highly motivated. It was just like, you signed. You on the internal scorecard, you signed your name on this.
That's what it is, man. Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was like, okay, so get your running shoes on.
Yeah.
Stand up, right?
Yes.
And so, but that question really helped me after the fact when I finished, right? And I finished, it took me 16 hours to do, which is a lot longer than I thought it was going to, right?
But
Because
you finished.
I finished the race, right?
Yeah.
And when I crossed the line, they were like, you did it. And I was like, I literally turned to my family and was like, there were no winners here.
Epic line after finishing Ironman.
The cost was too great.
We all lost.
There were no winners today. But the reality is that check on, am I brave? Because my instinct is always, oh man, you're so like, this is brave, this is wise, this is you're pushing yourself.
It's an easy thing to tell yourself, right? Until you're really confronting it, and you had to confront that.
Yep. And another thing that I took away from that, a real win, was I hurt. I really hurt. I was walking and I didn't know. I was like, are you cramping or are you like straining or are you tearing? What is happening in your legs?
Yeah.
And I realized, I was like, I have had this latent judgment for people who say I hurt. All my life, I've had this judgment where I said, yeah, but blank. And that really washed me of that in many ways, of being like, you need to, where's this qualifying coming back in here, buddy?
Yeah.
They're telling you they're in pain. Like, you're in pain now. What if somebody looked at you and said, yeah, you know,
Yeah, dude. It gave you a whole new reference, right?
it did. It made me
Yeah.
respect what people say about themselves as
Wow.
what they mean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can't just, okay, now I have a black and white answer. It's not like that.
Yeah, of
But
course.
the empathy was installed, and that was helpful. Right.
I love that, man. I mean,
Yeah.
what great gifts from doing, one of the hardest things you can do physically. You walked away with some
I
real
know. Yeah.
life changing gifts, man. And
Yeah.
and I love, like you said, sitting out there after finishing the bike portion, the cycling portion, whether or not you're going to run, and like not having some sort of profound, answer, but just going,
Yeah.
I signed up for this. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And that points to exactly what we were talking about earlier. That's the inner scorecard. Like it can't be for anybody else. That's actually what's beautiful about what motivated you to do it being so personal and so simple. Was like, I'm going to let myself down. I'm probably not, no one else is really going to care. Like, whatever, I'll get over it. Like, I'm out here. It's up to
Yeah.
me. It's about it. This is between me and myself. And the fact that you answered the call, you finished the marathon, like, you get to carry that with you for the rest of your life now. And it's just a whole new reference point for everything that you encounter, every struggle, every setback, every hard time. So
Yeah.
cool, man.
Yeah. I definitely left like when a movie ends and then it kind of teases a sequel.
Yeah, yeah.
I finished that race and I felt like there was a sequel
Oh,
planted in my heart. So I'm
mm-hmm.
gonna look at doing another race. I don't know when, but I it didn't go how I wanted it to go,
Mm-hmm.
and that was good. But also, I see you, future race.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's
See
cool.
you.
It's kind of a gift that it didn't go the way you planned, because now you have something to strive for, right? Let's do this thing
Yeah.
in 12 hours or whatever goal you end up setting for yourself. Like,
Right.
that's really
Yep.
cool, man. That's really cool. It's gonna be the gift that keeps giving, the Iron Man. Right on, Matt. Okay, this is defied all my expectations. This has been fantastic. I love your thinking. I love your philosophy. This has been really, really nice, man. I'm really glad we connected. Hope we can talk more in the future. I do want to be respectful of time. We got a few more minutes. I'm going to close up with some of the main questions I like to hit for this podcast. And we've sort of been talking about this throughout, but I'm going to sort of address it directly. So first, we'll start off with, again, the Stoic side of things. This is a question that I like to ask, and I really am excited about your answer because I think it's going to be very thoughtful. What would you consider the good life? And what do you hope? How do you hope to live to accomplish your idea of what the good life is?
Hmm. I'm going to answer this succinctly. I'm going to try to. Let's put it that way. The good life, in my estimation, is allowing the force that brought you here to move through you with gratitude and joy. And that when you go, it keeps moving. That's it.
Mic drop.
Yeah. God, I don't know how else to say it, man. Because
Dude,
like...
you just said it, bro. That's fucking beautiful. That was like a poem.
Good.
That's a tweet.
It's a tweet, dude. 2 likes. This one's doing numbers.
That is beautiful, bro. Yes. I mean, damn, dude, this is a question I ask a lot of people. I talk about myself. It's one of my favorite subjects. I don't know if I've ever heard a better answer. I mean, that's right out of my own soul, dude.
Yeah, man.
Whatever brought us here, to move through us. And I like the word express, to express through us, to be of service, to grow, to transform, to change, to become truer and more fully itself. And then you really surprise me with the way you finish it, and for it to keep moving after you've left, after you've gone. It's a huge part of my personal philosophy, is the idea of a legacy builder. We'll get
Let's
there.
go, dude.
What motivated me to finally write, I procrastinated writing for a decade. what finally got me to do it was I wanted to write letters to my daughters. And the idea of, I think the most beautiful gift you can give to your kids, if I have this thing about mortality, that I could pass away at any moment. Every day I do this meditation that, okay, this is my last day. I'm going to go to sleep. How do I feel about my life, up to this point? Like, make all my decisions through that frame, basically. And the one thing that would always get me was, you haven't written anything to hand to your daughters. Like, no matter how much money you leave them, no matter how much pictures or videos, there's something about the written word that's so powerful. And so I sat down almost 2 years ago every single day to write letters to them. And that's how all this personal brand thing has come about, was because of that.
Beautiful.
Thank you, man. Right on.
Yeah.
And that's so connected to me when you said the idea of, after you've gone, that energy that came from your source keeps going. I think that's the idea of legacy, a way that we can stay here afterward. That's what this podcast is, hopefully. Maybe some people stumble upon this podcast that feel sort of alone, or in a certain point in life, and they hear Brett and Nick talking, they go, oh man, these guys are like really getting it. Cool. Like, it motivates them to maybe go run a Ironman, or go do a wood sauna, with a cigar, or whatever it is. Like, the idea of building a legacy, I think, is really beautiful, and that it was all captured. And you said you were going to make it succinct, and you did. My ramblings afterwards is much less, but it was so beautiful.
It's a big question. I really appreciate that question, because you're trying to encapsulate so much. Words are so helpful, and they're so clunky.
Yes.
Going back to the epiphany thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you encounter the truth and you feel it all the way through, it's like, okay, now describe it. It's like,
it's impossible. Yeah, you're gonna dilute it. Exactly.
I'm gonna try.
Yeah. So one of my big spiritual teachers, that I never met him, he's passed. I saw a quote that you posted of him, Ramana Maharshi.
Oh yeah.
Does that ring? Okay, that's my disembodied guru. He's not around anymore, but I look at pictures of him, and it's like he talks directly to my soul. One of the things that he says is, the truth is in the silence. The moment we go to speak of it, we obscure it. And I think that's very much in line with your idea of the epiphany. The epiphany, like, it's a word we're using. We're pointing to something that's beyond any spoken word, any concept, right? It's even like beyond a feeling. It's just this ultimate something that's hitting us. And then we try to take that and we try to explain it. And we know, as we're explaining it, that we're diluting it. But hey, we only have, we're not telepathic yet, or whatever. We can't transmit things. So we're using the tool of language, or art, or music, or whatever, to express it. But that's just exactly it, dude. And that's what great poetry is it gets just a little bit closer to expressing that ineffable, right?
Yeah. Dude, there's a quote that I always remind myself of when I have moments like that. Jack Gilbert is a fantastic poet. If you've never read Jack Gilbert.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
He says, in one of his poems, he says, I say moon is horses in the tempered dark, because horse is as close as I can get to it. And that line, just, I don't even still think I get it, but I think I get it. You know what I mean? I'm like,
it's like a Zen koan. Yeah, it
just unfolds. Yeah, because it's like, it's as close as I can get to it. And a lot of times, if done in gratitude and done in love, that's enough. You know what I mean? Because when you encounter those epiphanies like that, the goal is that they change you enough so that you can facilitate their embodiment in other people and in yourself, right?
That's beautiful said. Yes. Yeah. It hits you, and you go, the goal is that you can translate it in some way, in a real way, not in like you get to say it and sound smart and interesting or whatever, but like in your actions, in the way that you show up for other people, in the way that you're loving, compassionate, present, like that's the best that you can hope for from any epiphany or any enlightening moment or anything like that. So good, man. Okay, great answer. Okay, we've covered the spiritual side of things, the stoic side of things. We're gonna finish on a lighter note. And you did tell me ahead of time that you had a story for this. Since it's called Laughing Stoic Buddha, let's finish off with, let me hear about the last time that you laughed really, really hard.
Yeah. I have a couple stories. I'll tell you one that came
Keep
to
them,
mind.
keep them coming, man. Okay, let's hear it.
Oh my gosh. Well, there was one time currently I work from home. I've worked from coffee shops and office spaces and stuff, but right now I just work from home and in my home office. And I had a particularly difficult day. And it was just a lot of thinking, a lot of problem solving systems, a lot of problem solving, but problem solving like 3 problems up. You know what I mean? Where you're just like grappling. You're like, I don't even know if I'm on the right track with a lot of stuff. And it was just a really hard day. And my daughter walks in. She just barges in, right? And I'm like, we have a rule where it's like I could be on a meeting, you got to knock, right? You got and wait. Just barges in, looks at me. She's upset, and I'm like, "What's wrong?" And she turns to me, and she just turns back to yell at mom, and she goes, "What did she say exactly?" It was like, "Why do I have to do chores when Dad gets to sit all day and drink lemonade?" First off, when's the last time I had lemonade? I haven't had lemonade in years, dude. I need to have some because I haven't.
There's so many levels to this joke, this story.
I literally just sat there and I just started laughing so hard because it just hit me right in the face.
Yes, dude, you're so deep into the 3rd level dimension of this problem.
I'm trying to grapple with this whole, like, am I on the right track with the whole thing? Yeah. And then just
barges in.
Why can't I have it easy like this guy? He just drinks lemonade all day. And it was
and
so
you don't
good,
even drink. That's amazing.
I don't even drink lemonade. That's the funniest thing. That was literally that detail was the part that just killed me.
Yeah, that's a triple whammy, bro.
I don't think I could take a grown man seriously if he sat down with a glass of lemonade.
I don't think so either.
I think I'd be worried.
Yeah. that's a bad sign, bro. There's something. You're fighting some demons if you're sitting down drinking a glass of lemonade.
You're drinking some Minute Maid. I don't know, buddy.
Wow, dude. Man, I think I'm going to say it again. That might be the funniest ending story I've ever heard. That one got me, bro. I could visualize every moment of it. Like I could see my own daughter's face, that same sort of, stink face that she turns around and yells at mom.
Yeah. Look at this guy.
This guy drinking his lemonade.
I know.
Oh man, that is amazing, dude. What a great way to end. Thank you for the laughs. Thank you for all the wisdom, for all the stories, bro. You're freaking amazing, man. It's so cool. I'm kind of like proud of myself because I had this intuition that you were pretty cool just from your posts on online. And so I'm glad that I pursued this because you've over-delivered on my expectations. You're so right in line with exactly my philosophy, the work that I'm trying to do, what I want this podcast to be, and just the life that I'm trying to live. And literally, you've given me, like, people throw around the word gems or whatever, what you've given me true gems that I know is going to live in my heart for like the rest of my life. So thank you so much for making the time to do this, dude. Let me finish with this. Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing, your upcoming projects, where people can find you and interact with you more.
Yeah, 100%, man. Much appreciation, man. Big love. Right. Right. Love what you're doing.
Thanks, man.
Bringing the energy, dude. Bringing the good vibes and the energy. That's what it's about. Ultimately, bringing out the best in people. The best people bring out the best in others. I think that's a fact, man. Yeah. What are we doing these days? So you can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn, Brett Erik. What I'm doing professionally right now is audience building. So I'm working to grow agencies, to grow audiences, to scale offers, right? And so, yeah, it's been really fun. It's been a really cool chapter, that's for sure. And but yeah, if you want to reach out, if anybody wants to get in contact or see what I'm doing or kind of follow along, LinkedIn and Twitter is probably the easiest way.
Right on. Go follow them, guys. You will not be disappointed. And this was so much fun, dude. This was like it's Tuesday. It's been a really long week. This was just a nice little bright sanctuary in the middle of my week. Just like your Twitter page is a little sanctuary in the middle of my Twitter day. So I appreciate you so much, dude. And I'd love to do this again sometime. Maybe we can, check in once a year, see what you're up to, see what new wisdom you've come across. So
crack open an ice cold lemonade and just sit back.
You know what we do? We don't work. We just sit around drinking lemonade,
do.
podcasting, telling stories, and laughing.
Fantastic.
You're the best, bro.
All right, brother.
Peace. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching or listening all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this conversation, please hit the like button. If you want to hear more conversations like this in the future, hit the subscribe button and you will be notified when my next podcast comes out. But what I would really like for you to do is to check out my Substack, where I write 2 articles a week, one on Monday and one on Friday. You can subscribe to that newsletter. Every Monday, we send out a Stoic-leaning article, and every Friday, a Buddhist-leaning article to continue this Laughing Stoic Buddha project. Thank you guys again so much for your time and for your attention, and I will see you on the next one.